Welcome to Thriving Tribesmen. My name is Kuri, your host, and I'm excited to be making this episode. So, I got a message from a client, and they reminded me of an episode that I made a year ago. It's just about the same time, and it was around communication. And a lot of people, they talk about when you say what's the number one thing to fix a relationship. In fact, if you asked somebody who's going through a divorce and they've had a horrible marriage and said, I just want to hear your advice. What's your advice on getting married? Most likely they'll say don't get married. But if I said, well, it's too late, I'm about to get married, what advice would you give? They'll probably say communication is key for the relationship to work, even though they're going through a divorce. And what's funny about that is that, this is what everybody says. Everyone. Every wedding, everybody, when they're giving those advice, you have to have communication. And really, to some extent, it's true. But at the same time, we communicate all the time. We're always communicating. In fact, say 97% of your communication is non-verbal. What that means is if I walked in, I looked at my wife, didn't say anything, went upstairs without saying anything, and I've just come from a long days of work. If she was happy, she would instantly go into a negative emotion and think that there's something wrong. So I've communicated. If I walked in, same scenario, I had a smile on my face. Hey babe, how you doing? But she was already having a bad morning, or for example, because I usually come in the morning, she could have a negative state, but the fact that I've come in with a good vibe, I can communicate a good vibe and alter the state. So when it comes to communication, it's anything that will alter somebody's state or the way they're thinking, and all the way they're feeling, especially, in fact, let's just say the way they're feeling. And that's communication. And that could be through your body for you. It could be through non-verbal, and it could be something that you say. So when it comes to communication, it becomes important to understand what type of communication is important for your relationship and what kind of communication is important to move you from sexless to sexual success. And usually, in fact, the most important, the one that you have to prioritize is communication to yourself. How that self-dialogue that you're talking about, most of you are so unkind to yourselves that you are consistently tearing up your self-esteem, self-worth. You're tearing it down. In fact, I said eroding it because it's not a complete removal of self-worth. In fact, some of you guys don't even have any self-worth because you've never said anything kind to yourself. And when you do so, it dictates how you show up to your partner depending on how you feel in terms of your self-worth. So I'll say that again. So if I'm not kind to myself and I don't build up any self-worth in terms of I see myself in a light where it's positive, I will not turn up to my wife and communicate in a positive manner. I can say things that are positive. In fact, 9 times out of 10, because you don't see that you don't have any worth, everything else that you say, you're saying it in a submissive, passive manner because you don't think you're worth anything. So you essentially take this sort of submissive role, and therefore it's massively unattractive. Because the way you start communicating is, I'm going to speak in a way that's going to appeal to your anxiety, for example. I want to speak in a way that I think you might want to hear what I have to say, which is a very important, another entire episode that I'm going to be talking about next week, hopefully. That, how you communicate passively puts you into a submissive role and makes you very unattractive. Because you think you're saying what she needs to hear. You have to say what's supposed to be said because you're a leader. And sometimes what you say is supposed to cause friction. And I'll give you an example. And I gave this example the other day when I was saying that with my daughter, I make decisions for her, and sometimes those decisions causes friction. She doesn't like it because whatever I decide for her to do might be an inconvenience to her life at that time. So, and I gave the example when she was about, 3-4 years old. She managed to learn how to brush her teeth by herself. So, before bedtime, I'd be like, it's time to brush your teeth. Come upstairs. Obviously, I would monitor. Come and brush your teeth. And she would resist because all of a sudden she was playing, she was in a good state, I've communicated something, and it's caused friction. And we did this for a long time, this dance, doing this. And over a period of time, there's a point in when I stopped monitoring, and then I'll just make the command, go and brush your teeth. And she'll put everything that she's doing at the time, go and do it, and then get ready for bed. My point being, there was external pressure that I created around her, which which caused resistance, but over a period of time ended up becoming her own account. She started being accountable to herself to make sure that that job is done properly. So it became this external influence or pressure, or external influence or pressure to internal accountability, which is completely different approach, because when you start thinking from that leadership frame, that's what I wanted for the rest of her life. And it's something that she now does without me having to push anymore. My point being, how you communicate sometimes is not exactly what she wants. And for you to be able to communicate that where there's some friction involved, you have to have built some self-worth inside you so you can withstand when the friction happens. When that friction happens, you're good. Allowing external pressure or influence or to build internal resilience in her, build internal confidence in her, to build relationship accountability inside her. All of that is, you can do that as a leader, but first you have to believe in yourself as a leader. And this is where the communication becomes important. What type of communication that you should be prioritizing? What kind of communication is important within a sexless relationship? Is that communication to yourself? What are you saying to yourself? Are you building yourself as a leader, or are you prioritizing speaking to her and trying to be appeasing the anxiety monster? Are you trying to say the right thing so she can see you in a favorable manner? And all of that is you supplicating. So it's you taking the I'm not worth anything, please pick me, And like I said, and again, the better you communicate about yourself, it becomes from please pick me to you providing the opportunity for her to walk along with you. And this is a very important distinction, and I'm going to finish it off on here. A lot of people, when it comes to being in a sexless relationship, they take this frame of please pick me, please choose me. So they do all these things that are confirming that sort of thought. That when you do the dishes, when you do the date nights, all these things that you're doing it just so you can be chosen. Because of the fact that you've not spoken to yourself to build your self-worth. Whereas, personally, I speak quite a lot to myself in a very high regard. And when I do, it puts me in a place of a leadership. And when I say high regard, I speak things that will construct the leadership mindset to myself. And when I do, when I communicate with my wife sexually, I now have the frame of I'm giving you an invitation to come with me sexually. And what's so powerful about that is that she can choose to, which is what I would like. But if she doesn't choose to, it's no big deal. And again, the fact that it's not a big deal makes it more attractive. And let that sink in. It's more attractive when it's not a big deal. A lot of you guys make it into a big deal because your self-worth is all wrapped up into all of that. And it's reeking of desperation. It's reeking of you being somebody who's a follower within that relationship. And your wife is desperate for a leader. Desperate for a leader. And gentlemen, hopefully that's going to set up your weekend pretty well. So when it comes to communication to what makes you a leader, I think that's the questions that you guys are probably now asking yourself. I'm going to invite you to come to thriving_tribesman to the Instagram. And when you go over there, I can walk you through specifically for your relationship, because it would be very unfair for me to say, this is exactly what I do, or this is exactly what you should do. Within 10 guys with these reignited men, they're all got different spouses, and there's all different ways of how you communicate your leadership and how you can receive that. So it would be very, very, very bad for me to say this is exactly what you should be doing. I think it's better if I speak to you and then guide you on how to do it. And again, it's all for free, so don't feel like if I go there I'm going to get sold and then it's going to be awkward. I'm literally going to help you through navigating what that looks like, speaking to yourself and building leadership in a way that you can communicate that to your partner. And this is the best way of communicating. When people say communication is the most important thing in the relationship, it's half right. It's not correct. Yes, it is to a certain extent. And when I say half right, it's the type of communication that you're making, and that important communication is communication to yourself. So thank you very much, guys. Hope you have a very good weekend. I'll be seeing you guys soon. Take care.